enthusiasm is growing at levels it's never been, even in the face of this government shutdown. And as it's Thursday, the 9th day of October, we are on the intellectual path. So let's cover both of those major issues on this episode of the Steve Beaman Journey.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In a world of uncertainty, where business, freedom, and the future hang in the balance, one voice rises with clarity, experience, wisdom, and conviction. This is the Steve Beaman Show, the voice of the independent American.
Well, hello, my friends, and welcome once again to the Steve Beaman Journey. As we've talked before, this is a journey I'm on together with you, where we go down all of the things about faith, family, and freedom. I'm heavily involved in the independent business community, and I tend to stand up for all independent Americans. Today, even in the face of the government shutdown that we've talked about in the past and all the uncertainty that puts on everything, the optimism in the entrepreneurial world and the independent business world continues to grow. Latest numbers coming out of Bluevine, which is a bank, by the way. If you haven't looked, there's a huge development in the online banking sector, getting away from the bricks and mortar buildings into the internet-based banking. They're a lot more flexible, and they offer a lot higher interest rates on your checking account. So if you haven't used a Bluevine or something, give it a shot. But according to Bluevine's latest poll, 78.9, 80% of people that were polled see this as a wonderful time to start a small business. I couldn't agree more. It's always a good time to live out your dream and start that business that can change everything going forward. You know, Henry Ford didn't look at economic statistics when he went out to build the Ford Motor Company. Steve Jobs didn't go look at statistics when he built Apple Computer. This is a time that anyone can stand up and do that. But I want to look today with you at some of the major statistics behind the independent business community. This is the driver behind the U.S. economy, and the power of it is just overwhelming. And I'm pleased to be part of that community. So if you're in the independent business community or you're thinking about starting one, this program's for you. Over the last 2 years, despite inflation and the other issues that we faced, optimism in the independent community has grown. As I said, according to Bluevine, it's over 80% optimism. If you look at the National Federation of Independent Business, and they keep a monthly statistic on optimism, we're over 100%. It's a 0 to 100 scale. We're at 100.8. So optimism has never been higher. That's a wonderful thing because, again, it's the driver of the American enterprise. We need these people to keep this economy going. Just to give you a note, a lot of the interest in new business is coming from people that are going through this transition into the digital economy. Maybe they've been laid off. Some 65% of people who've been laid off recently from their job said they were going to start up an independent side hustle. Now, I think that's critical because as we move into the digital transformation that we're going to see, I think the micro business, the individual solopreneur, is going to be the driving factor in our economy. It's the creator economy, and because of technology, you don't have the capital expenses you used to have. Again, witness what we're doing here. We're creating vehicles for communication and entertainment and education that never existed before, all of which are very, very low cost. So there is a forced independence coming among these people. And as I said, 65% of unemployed people are coming into the world of the entrepreneurial world. Now, there are fears that are driving them too. If we look at kind of those people, what's causing them to want to go into the entrepreneurial world? Well, if you look at their reasons, 48% cite economic uncertainty. Well, that's understandable because we are, in fact, in economically uncertain times. We're not only dealing with governmental issues, and we can all feel that to some extent, but we're dealing with a transition into the digital age. And that transition has many people wondering what AI and robotics are going to do to their job. So it's causing them to look for options. When you look at the things holding people back from starting these businesses that they want to do, fear of failure is at 40%, and all of us have that. Who of us has ever tried to start something and not thought, oh my gosh, what if it doesn't work? Well, sometimes the entrepreneur has to have that overriding optimism to say, well, I'll deal with that if it happens, but I'm not going to face that right now. Unpredictable income, that's another one where people say, hey, I'm going into this new world. I don't know what it will drive in income, and I need a certain benchmark. Well, that's a tough one, and I respect that. But we can talk about in entrepreneurialism in the digital age how you can minimize the cost and raise the revenue side without a lot of headache. And then finally, there is a 37% of people who say, I don't have the personal savings to start my own business. So they want to do it, but they have these issues that hold them back. This is the risk-reward tolerance of the entrepreneur. It's rational risk-taking where they're saying, I want to go out on my own, but I have this fear of failure, unpredictable incomes, and I have low personal savings. Those are the things that balance them out. Now, for those who have the better idea and a better way to solve a problem, well, they're going to go ahead and run with it. And I'm sure that most of them will do well. In fact, statistics used to be that 80% fail. Those are transitioning now. You actually have a majority of startup companies that succeed. And that's because the cost of starting a company has come precipitously down. So we do have a very real opportunity here to start our companies and to run them in a digital world that's going to make us more profitable. There are some things that worry people and some both barriers and catalysts that could, be there to help them. Number one, 60% of people said lower interest rates would help them. Now, we've heard a lot of talk from the Federal Reserve and the Trump administration on trying to get interest rates down. Now, there's a problem with that. Those of you who know me know I have a background in finance and economics. The problem is the U.S. government is borrowing so much money, it puts demand pressure on it, which raises the cost. Now, we have for years used the Federal Reserve to artificially lower interest rates, but we now have a transitional economy in which people are crying out for even lower rates. So we'll see if Jerome Powell and the Fed can help that by lowering rates a little bit more. In fact, on that point again, 83% of those surveyed said a 1% drop in interest rates over the next 18 months would push them over the edge and help them get started in their business. So we definitely think that a barrier is this interest rates that we have. Let's try to get that down. Both Bluevine and the digital platforms that I follow have all said that this would tend to increase cash flows and lead more people to start their own companies. Now, again, going to broader implications, and this is huge in the U.S. We are a country with 36 million independent business people. We have, as a percentage, more independent business people than anywhere in the world, and we always have. We are an entrepreneurial nation. But if we look at that, we have in the small business world, to give you an example of how they drive things, in the broader world, 29% use AI. In the small business world, 42% use AI. The AI community gets this digital transformation, and they are working toward implementing it into their various businesses. They want to lower distribution costs. They want to lower the cost of developing new products. They want to raise revenues. And there are lots and lots of ways to do that in this digital economy that didn't exist 5 years ago. 5 years ago, if you wanted national distribution of your product, you had to go to a bricks and mortar store. A lot of folks went to Walmart. That gave you instant national distribution, but at the risk of losing your entire company to Walmart. Well, now with Amazon and the other online retailers, you can take your company national overnight and you can control the distribution so that it doesn't threaten your very existence. That's a good change, a good transition. There are an awful lot of flexible funding things now too that didn't exist. If you look through the networks like NFIB and SCORE, really, really good organizations, they can drive you to find alternative funding for these companies. There are now third-party lenders and all kinds of non-bank lenders to help small business get going. If you go back 7 years ago, 8 years ago, it was almost impossible for a small business to get merchant processing set up through the Chase banks of the world. Well, now there are all kinds of ways to get that through PayPal and Stripe and other things so that you can get payments into your system. That's a huge change because of the technology that we've had improve. And it is something that we want to keep pushing on, because if you're a small business, the more you can integrate technology, again, the more you can reduce cost and raise revenues. I want to look real quick. If you're in the entrepreneurial family and you're saying, I want to start my own company, where should I be? Well, there are lists of states that are more or less user-friendly or entrepreneur-friendly. So I pulled a list out of Inc. magazine, and I thought this was kind of interesting, and it could go right in line with what we're talking about. The number one state in the union for entrepreneurs is Texas. There you go. Why was I not surprised? They have no income tax, and they have a lot of technology around Austin and Michael Dell and Elon Musk. So there's a lot of entrepreneurial zeal in the state of Texas, and that's a great place to be. Florida is number two. Again, not a surprise with DeSantis trying to get rid of property taxes. It just continues down. Utah, North Carolina, Colorado, Tennessee, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, and number 10 is Wyoming. Now, the reason I highlight that, for generations, it's been thought if you establish a corporation or an LLC or a partnership, you want to go to Delaware corporate law. The Chancery courts in Delaware have been very business friendly. They have well-established law. The state of Wyoming is developing a set of laws very friendly to startup companies. There are privacy regulations they have there, so you don't have to disclose ownership of companies. There are all kinds of funny benefits there. So if you're looking to start your company, you might want to consider Wyoming as the home of it. It's just food for thought. Now, I happen to, by the way, I was looking at this list of where states are and where they're friendly. You'll notice that on that list isn't Illinois. Our governor, J.B. Pritzker, has done everything he can to make this an unfriendly state for the entrepreneur. Workload regulations, payroll tax regulation, workman's comp regulations, property taxes, all of it has made Illinois on the bottom of the list. And for those interested who might be from Illinois, you might find it funny that even Warren Buffett a few years ago said they would not invest into companies headquartered in Illinois. It's not a very business-friendly state. I'd like to see them take some of the steps that these other states have made to see a little more independent flexibility given to Illinois. Now, going back and continuing, I've talked about the optimism we saw through the Blue Vine thing, and I think that's just great. I love to see the entrepreneurial thing growing. But go to NFIB, the National Federation of Independent Business. In June, their optimism confidence index was 98.6. Again, that's extraordinarily high. In July, it went to 100.3, and in August to 100.8. The small business, independent business, and when you say independent small business, we're looking under 500 employees. That's a fairly real benchmark for that. There's a lot of confidence in that group, and it's because they're seeing exports pick up. And if you look at, I got a number here that I thought was really interesting. Did you know that small business contributes 33% of all exports? And over 97% of companies doing exporting are small businesses, independent businesses. They're not the big guys. It's an amalgamation of all these wonderful small businesses that makes this economy work. They do most of the hiring. They do most of the trademark and patent work. So it's the small independent business that makes it all go. Again, there are 36 million of them. Now, of that 36 million, about 29 million are solopreneurs. That's an awful lot of people living out their dream on their own. They're consultants, they're bakers, they're doctors, lawyers, independent people with a better idea. Well, I hope you'll become one of them. Right now, just looking at more statistics on the importance of the independent business community, independent businesses in the U.S. employ 62 million, or 46% of all employment. So half of all Americans work for a small business. Now that number's down. It used to be like 80%, but it's still very healthy at 46%. 1.5 million new jobs a year. That's about 64% of net U.S. jobs. Those are created by the small business community. It's the independent business that makes it all work. If you look at growth rates, we have 155,000 new businesses that started up between 2023 and 24. Huge numbers. Top growth came out of healthcare, e-commerce, and tech. 51% of the startup companies had an online presence. So again, these are the people making things happen. If we look at the utility patents and the trademarks, 24% of patents go to the small business community. 12% of those patent grants go to small business. And 50% of patenting firms are small companies. So the patents are individuals. The firms sponsoring those patents are small businesses. So it's the innovation engine, it's the employment engine, it's the growth engine, and it's the engine that made America great. So step up and support your small business person, but consider, as you know, you're part of that group starting one. Let me know if I can help. I've been through that road many, many times. I've seen great success and great failure. I know the entrepreneurial game inside and out. I'd obviously love to help you with that. So small business becomes the engine of this country. And while the politicians debate policy and real Americans suffer from the policies they put in, it's the small business that powers through it and says, you know what, regardless of what they do, I'm going to make this work. It's that can-do attitude that has created America's small business community, whether it's Milton Hershey, who went bankrupt a couple of times. Again, Henry Ford, who went bankrupt. Awful lot. Ray Kroc, who had serious economic problems before he founded McDonald's at 50 years old. We have a community of entrepreneurs in this country who make it great. So with that, I want to move now into the intellectual path. As I've mentioned in my recent broadcast, we're going to be switching to doing one path a day. Thursdays happen to be the intellectual path. And the reason for that, not necessarily today, but the reason for an intellectual path is because intellectual growth helps support things like entrepreneurship. Optimism without knowledge is hollow. We have to have the knowledge to back up what we're trying to build. So we want to have this issue of what knowledge is necessary to build an independent business. And we're going to talk about that one. So we know that optimism is high, and that's a wonderful thing, right? But optimism without knowledge is like, let's say it's like a car without fuel. It's not going to go very far. It's wonderful to look at, but it doesn't move you anywhere. We need that fuel. So today, again, we're going to talk about what knowledge is necessary to build the independent path to your success. In this new economy, and in America in general, it is much more of a knowledge-based economy. It's an idea economy. It's an economy not based on the hard cost of equipment and manufacturing needs, but based on your ability to come up with the next creative, useful idea. It is truly a knowledge-based economy. You know, as Thomas Jefferson once said, if a nation, I'm going to quote this, if a nation expects to be ignorant and free, it expects what never was and never will be. Freedom and intelligence come hand in hand. We can't ignore the intellectual development of a nation and expect it to stay free, nor can we expect without an intellectual development for our businesses to thrive and for the independent American to stay independent. So we need to study all that we can, and we need to have a know what you're doing. One of the things for the independent American, and this translates direct to the entrepreneur, is financial literacy. We need to understand the language of Wall Street. We need to understand the processes and methods and language that they use every day so that you can run your business in accordance with the best principles, and you can educate your children and your grandchildren with what the future will need for them. Financial literacy is not an option. It's an absolute must, a necessity for everybody involved. There's an old saying, if you don't know the numbers, you don't know your business. And that's very, very true. In addition to financial literacy, the independent American looking out to strike out on their own also needs to understand certain legal issues. You need to understand the difference between a sole proprietorship, a partnership, a limited liability company, and a corporation. Each of those operating vehicles is appropriate given a certain set of circumstances. But you want to make sure to pick the right one for what you're trying to do. So if you link financial literacy to this basic corporate literacy and structural literacy, you're going down the right path. But you further need to understand product and market fit. Someone once said to me, "What's so complicated about business?" And I said, it's not. It's what do you sell and to whom do you sell it? You have to have a service or a product that solves a problem. So that product knowledge and that service knowledge that you have goes head to head with what problem do you have and how do you deliver it. Ultimately, businesses are all about what problem do you solve. And finally, it just as again an overview of financial literacy, legal literacy, product literacy, time management. Time is the one irretrievable asset that all of us have. Every minute you spend is value. Every hour that you waste is gone forever. Make your days valuable. Learn time management and resource management and systems management so that you can make most efficient use of what you have at the core, which is your time. It's not passion often that'll keep a business alive. I mean, that can drive it, and I certainly know that game, but it's understanding. It's a linkage of the passion with the knowledge, and you can't ignore that. In fact, I talk about that in the spiritual path a lot too, that it's faith, but it's faith plus knowledge. Well, in the intellectual path and in the entrepreneurial path, it's passion, but it's the knowledge as well. We have to have both to make it work. There are certain how to do it things that you need to get into. So I want to touch on these 4 things. First of all, learn the digital tools that exist today. In terms of a knowledge set and what you need to build as an independent American, you need to understand the digital tools, whether it's websites, payment systems, as we discussed, CRMs, email, and the marketing that comes from that, social media marketing. These digital tools create the vehicles you can use to get your business going. AI literacy. There are companies now that sell courses in this stuff. AI is in its infancy. We're going to see over the next year, 2, 3, 5 years, this grow to a point where it's impacted on daily life in a major way. But right now, even today, you can create AI-based avatars to do your marketing for you. You can create AI-based scripts. You can create product development using AI. You can create marketing plans using AI. You can use AI today to do many of the things that you used to have a staff of people to do. Well, that's an enormous cost reduction, and it just reinforces the idea economy. If you can take your idea and have an AI partner, you can get the product plans, the marketing plans, the distribution plans, and all of that built for you. Learn AI, whether it's Grok, ChatGPT, or any of the others. There are a lot of companies now that take AI, and it's either usually Grok or ChatGPT derivatives, but they cause it to do special things. It might do email marketing, it might do avatar development, it might do a lot of different things, but it's all fundamentally based on either ChatGPT or Grok. So maybe you've got a better idea for use of AI. Well, you can have AI build that for you. It can build your website now. You just have to tell it what you want. They can write the HTML code to build a WordPress site. It's pretty impressive. AI can help you build what you want to build with the minimal of cost. Thirdly, and this is something I just came out of a seminar today even on, but cybersecurity. Learn how to take, the best case to secure your passwords, secure your crypto vaults, do your cloud backups, do all of the privacy protocols you need so that your cybersecurity in your new business, in your independent life, is taken care of. It's a truly growing area of concern, in the law especially. If you're dealing at all in crypto transfers, you have to make certain that who you're transferring that money to is credible and right, because you'll never get it back. Once a crypto transfer is made, it's not coming back to you. So your cybersecurity as a business or as an individual, you ought to be real aware of it and get that knowledge down. And then finally, sales and communication. Persuasion and storytelling are critical to the success of an independent enterprise. I don't care what business you're in. I don't care if you're the head of a family, if you're the head of a school, the head of a manufacturing company, a service company, a tech company. Your ability to have the communication skills that it needs to drive that business forward are hugely important, and you can learn it. There are online courses for you. There are ways to improve your communication skills so that you can share your story and help others become believers in your story. It's a learned thing. It's not innate. So you can learn that. So if you go and you say every business today is a tech company to some extent, you learn digital tools, learn AI, learn cybersecurity, and learn storytelling. And whether you sell coffee or consulting, all four of those critical needs are going to come home to you. And then finally, in strategic knowledge, let's talk about visionary plays in the digital age. Understand market trends. Understand where the markets are going, where the dynamics are headed. Demographics, consumer shifts, and all that. This is where AI can really help you. Not many years ago, you had to have a person who did that research. Now, AI can give you the market dynamics. AI can tell you the demographics of your market, the demands of your market, the needs, wants, and hopes of your market. Use AI to help you develop your market integration plan. Be aware of the macro world. This program is designed to help the independent American be aware of things like tax policy, interest rate policy, global debt problems. I follow things like DEFCON to see the global political hotspots. Where are we likely to get risk in the global economy, and how do we address it? All that I do is to empower you with that knowledge at the macro level you need. And then networking and mentoring and giving back. It's a hugely network relative market that we live in. Go out and visit your local NFIB office. Visit your local chamber events. Visit Network After Dark, any of these events where you can get to know similar independently minded people. They can help you drive it and mentor you to be of great success. I really do recommend entrepreneurs visit SCORE, the Service Corps of Retired Executives. The content they put out is overwhelmingly valuable. Most of the content they provide is no charge. Some of them might have a $10 charge for a webinar. But whether you're looking at cybersecurity, marketing, business plan development, technology, AI, SCORE has resources that can help you today. So please don't hesitate to reach out to them. And as always, I suggest that you're always learning, reading, studying your competitors, reading brochures, studying the culture of the companies that you wish to emulate. Knowledge is power. Knowledge put into action is superpower. So on the intellectual path, Use your gifts, use your ability to learn as a strategic asset for both your independent life and your independent business. It matters. We're drowning in information, as you know. Everybody has unlimited access to unlimited information. The problem is we're looking for people with some semblance of wisdom on how to interpret that information, on how to make that information usable. Well, be part of that wise group. Be part of that group to use your experience to filter that information and make it applicable to the challenges we face in today's world. Everybody else is going to tell you who to blame. Together, you and I are going to try to find solutions. That matters a whole lot more to me because real help for real people is what this show is about. I don't want to just be another talking head throwing out the problems and the misery that exists. We all know that. Let's try to find solutions for the independent American to follow the independent path. So the intellectual path today, it's not about degrees and credentials. Every time we talk about it, it's not about the status that you get from those things. It's about curiosity, humility, and the courage to learn every day. There's always something new to learn. There's always a new power that you can bring into your life. Most successful business owners aren't simply workers. They're thinkers. So let's be strong on our path because the question that this does is it could change your life. Again, I'm Steve Beaman. I'm pleased that you've come to join me today. I look forward to seeing you as always. Visit me at steve@stevebeaman.com if you have questions. I'm live on Facebook, YouTube, and then I just added 2 or 3 more today. It's starting to go out there in a lot of places, but I look forward to seeing you and getting your questions answered. I pray that you have a wonderful day, a blessed week, and we'll see you tomorrow as we go down the spiritual path.